Senator Kennedy, and I'm also going to, obviously ask your questions still. I will not be firmly enforcing any time limit, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Corey. Ms. Hernandez, Bailey and Madison are here?
Bailey, my oldest daughter, is here, yes.
Where's Bailey? Hey, Bailey. Welcome. You were in a federal prison, Ms. Hernandez?
Yes, sir. The FCI Tallahassee.
And when did the rapes by this federal prison employee of you occur? Just what year?
Well, it started in about 2020, and then ended in 2022, August of 2022.
Okay. And you reported him.
I did.
And he was eventually punished.
Correct.
And what was his punishment?
3 months.
Was he prosecuted?
Yes.
I mean, in federal court or state court, if you know?
I don't know if it was state court or not. I know it was in Florida.
Yeah. And he got 3 months for rape?
Yes, sir.
Well, that's part of the problem right there. What you allow is what will continue. I mean, 3 months for rape is absurd, much less for repeated rape. Ms. White, let me ask you a question. You talked about inmates violating sexually and being engaging in offensive conduct with respect to female federal prison staff.
Yes, sir.
Are those inmates who do that not punished?
No, sir, not typically.
Why not?
That's a very good question. Oftentimes, the incidents are reported. Our prisons are very overpopulated. Discipline is an issue that we have been struggling with. Even when they are reported, it's handled internally with a small sanction. Typically, they're removed from general population and placed in special housing unit for a limited amount of time and then placed back in general housing. It's not a true punishment, and it definitely is not a deterrent. Oftentimes, those issues are turned over to the AUSA offices, who decline to prosecute the inmates.
Okay. Ms. Bowler, let me ask you a couple questions. I want to be sure I understand your testimony. The state of California has a law that says if you're convicted of a crime, you can declare your gender and you can go to a women's prison if you are biologically a male but declare yourself transgender. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. Does the state of California require any confirmation of one's gender identity?
There is some type of review process, but it is based on the individual's self-declared gender identity. These individuals don't have to be identifying as transgender or non-binary prior to being convicted and entering prison. It is based on their self-declared gender identity. And I will note that many female inmates we have talked to tell us once they gain access to women's prisons behind closed doors, they are no longer identifying as transgender. They are embracing their natural male identity.
Is this primarily an issue in California, or does your organization get reports from other states?
It is certainly the most pervasive in California, since California was on the forefront, one of the first states in the country to pass this state law, but the BOP also generally recommends housing inmates based on their gender identity. There is, again, a review process there.
Wait, you
where
say the BOPs, that's the federal prison
Bureau
system?
of Prison. Under the Biden-Harris administration, they ordered federal prisons to recognize trans-identified inmates' health and safety when making housing decisions, and even declared for the first time that gender-affirming surgery may be medically appropriate, which means taxpayers would be funding it.
These rapes that you talked about, do we have any idea how many have occurred nationwide?
I think that is one of the problems, and that was one of the problems, my understanding, going into PRERA, that there was a lack of reporting. I can tell you in California, state numbers are that 2,186 trans-identified inmates exist in the state. As of now, I'm aware of 351 of them requesting to go to female
Okay, could you give me those numbers once more? I apologize.
2,186 trans-identified inmates currently exist, according to the latest numbers reported by California. Of those, only 351 of them are actually trying to go into female prisons. And I'd also note, in 2022, 1/3 of trans-identifying inmates seeking access to the female prisons were registered sex offenders.
Okay, so there are 2,200 transgender women in women's prisons in California?
Those are just all trans-identified individuals, so they could be biological men or biological women, from my understanding.
Okay. All right, last question, and I've really gone way over here. Mr. James and Ms. Abate, give me 30 or 45 seconds if you were President of the United States, what you would do to fix this problem.
I was President of the United States.
Microphone, you should say that with more bass in your voice. You're president.
Yes, sir.
You're president,
Yes, sir.
so let it be heard.
As President of the United States, I would do an executive order asking for additional funding for all incarceration facilities across this nation, increase staffing, and push that all correctional facilities have professional employees who are heroes. The reason I would say that is because if you think of the worst things that happens in this country and the worst people who conduct these things, where are they housed? And who is monitoring those individuals where they are? If we look at how we celebrate people in this nation, rightly so, we call our heroes our military, our law enforcement officers, our firefighters, and our EMTs. But we forget the people who monitor the people we call the worst in our country. And so one of the reasons we don't have a robust correctional staffing in this country is because we don't celebrate those people who take the risk to be correctional officers.
Let me ask you this, Mr. James.
Yes, sir.
And I don't disagree with anything you said. How about adding to your list punishing the hell out of people who rape other people in prison?
I agree. But president doesn't make laws, sir.
Yes, sir, but when you get to be president, I'll bet you can get it done.
Yes, sir. Will you vote for me, sir?
Yes, sir.
We all heard that.
Ms. Abate.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
I'm looking for specific, how do we stop this?
So first of all, I think we have to realize that when we over-sentence people for any crimes, we're overpopulating our prisons. At the same time, staffing numbers are dwindling. That is dangerous for incarcerated
I
people.
know, but you can't let people rape other people, whether in prison or outside of prison.
So let's focus on what the people involved in this system need. And the people that are in the prisons need access to outside folks so they can have support, so they can report things safely, so that they can receive counseling from community organizations that can translate into when they leave the facility. So they can have that ability to heal from the trauma and process what's happened to them. We need to ensure that staff are provided with what they need to do their jobs, including adequate training, adequate numbers, the ability to take a day off to go see a kid's recital without having to call in sick because you know you won't be allowed to go, thereby forcing other folks to supplement when you need time off. We have to take care of the people in these institutions because as much as some staff are the problem in this area, all staff are the solution. We have to listen to Ms. White, we have to listen to Mr. James, listen to the field what they need. We have to continue our efforts to enforce these PREA standards. They're providing us with the best answer. We've had criminal laws saying you can't rape anybody anywhere. Raping people in custody has always been against everyone's policies, and yet we still needed to, in 2003, pass the Prison Rape Elimination Act. That's outrageous. So that was designed to study, how does it happen? What is it about these systems? And so I urge us to look at those reasons, look at what came from those discussions, bipartisan discussions, PREA Rape Commission and the commissioners, and see what we came up with at the at DOJ, ultimately. I think it provides the best answer and the best way to cure the situation, but we have to have adequate funding and attention, and we have to listen to people, we have to believe them, regardless of what color your uniform is. If it's orange, if it's blue or brown, staff are reporting these things, they know what's going on, they are not being listened to. We've got to hold facility and agency leadership accountable and to take action when they find out about this stuff because they know, and they don't, and that is not okay. And if agencies aren't listening to their leaders, and their staff, you think people didn't know that a warden was raping people? They did. They reported. Nothing happened. How are women ever supposed to come forward? How are men supposed to come forward who've experienced sexual abuse in custody? We have to support the people that work and live in our prisons.
Well, I want to thank all of you for being here. I've learned a lot. They're blowing up my phone here. You can't hear it because I put it on silent. Because I've got to be back in my office. So I'm going to have to take leave. I'm asking my staff here and making a note to myself. Ms. Hernandez, I'm going to find out why someone raped you and got 3 months of punishment.
Thank you.
I'm going to find that out. Okay? That's not right.
Thank you.
I mean, that's not justice. And I want to thank my friend, Senator Booker, for calling this hearing. Corey always has interesting topics, and I always learn a lot. And I would have let White House go first if he had been here.
I will never bicker if you fail to call me Booker. But I know how demanding the day is. And I know you were.
I'm sorry.
You were stepping in at the last minute, so I really appreciate you. And again, we're praying for Senator Cotton in this time of grief. All right.
Thank you,
sir.
folks. I'm sorry what happened to y'all. I mean, I'm really sorry. Okay.
Thank you, sir.